Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes Podcast. My name is Audrey and I am a knitwear designer from the southwest of France. And this is a podcast where I present to you my creations in fiber arts. And so I hope you are well. Thank you so much for joining me for this new episode. I have quite a bit to share. We're finishing the summer big with I have 5 different things to talk about. I have a design release that I want to present to you. I have a finished object. I have 2 new works in progress, and I also want to briefly talk about the latest Pom Pom Magazine and a design that I'm very lucky to have published in it. So yeah, and it's gonna be a bit all over the place because I have a very autumnal design, and then I have a summer top, and then 2 sweaters, colorful sweaters. So it's like a bit of a once again a mix of different things. And since I have so much to say, I'm not going to wait any longer. You can find timestamps for all the different sections of the podcast in the description down below. So if you want to skip anything to find a particular project, feel free to look at this and jump ahead. I also put links to everything that I talk about, yarns and patterns that I use, as well as my social media and my patterns for sale on Ravelry and Payhip. So yes, I'm going to stop this and present to you a new design that I just published on Ravelry and Payhip, and it is the Nynaeve cardigan, which is a cardigan that I designed in collaboration with Belgian indie dyer By Night Dyes. So Natalie is her name, and a year or so ago I asked her if she wanted to collaborate with me into creating a design, and she said yes. And so this was how Nynaeve was born. And so yes, this is a Wheel of Time reference. If you have read the books, it's a series of fantasy books which may or may not become a bit more mainstream in the next few months because we're getting a TV show. But yes, Nynaeve is a character from that book series. And it's a character that I really like because she basically spends her entire time complaining and hitting other people with a stick. So I relate to that in a way. But yes, so this is a big, cozy, oversized cardigan, and this is a drop shoulder construction. So you start with the back shoulder, which you shape with short rows, and one side has the nice texture panel and the other side is just double moss stitch. So then you cast on stitches for the back of the neck and you knit the back until the armhole. Then you pick up stitches at the shoulder. You do the same for the front, work short rows. Then you start increasing in a slight V-neck shaping. And you knit until the armholes. And then you join the 2 fronts and the back. And you cast on stitches at the underarm to work a fake seam in twisted stitches here. You knit until the bottom. You work a twisted rib hem. Then you may pick up already for the neckband and work it in twisted ribbing as well. And finally you pick up for the sleeve, you knit them straight in double moss stitch, and you have a balloon effect because they are gathered just before the cuff, which is also worked in twisted ribbing. So yeah, so it's an asymmetrical texture kind of thing, and yeah, so I hope you like it. I really do. So it's a very cozy, cocoon-like shape with a more thought neckline at the back. It's a little bit more worked. It's not as simple as a point like some cardigans that I made previously, like Servion and Minon. This is a bit more of a proper neckline at the back of the neck. Which you can sort of see. And yes, so this is not a complicated pattern. You have dedicated charts and detailed charts for the shoulders with the short rows, so you know exactly what you must do on each stitch. And yeah, you have also charts for the front increase here. Basically, it is fairly simple. When I was knitting on it, and then when I called for testers, I know some people were a bit afraid, but it is actually only requiring you to knit 2 different cable stitches. So it is quite a deceiving texture, because you look at it and you think it's going to involve lots of cabling, but actually there's only 2 different cables. There are these ones, which are always the same. They're made over 5 stitches and they're like twisted rib. And then you have these ones, which are the little cross around each bubble. And these are the only 2 cable stitch that you have to remember for this design. The rest of it is decreases, and then this is like the full eyelet cable thing, where you basically pass a stitch over some others, and then you make a yarn over in the center. And yeah, and this is also a decrease and not a cable. So you actually have very few stitches to remember. You don't need to gather a lot of information. The only thing that you must know how to do for this design is how to maintain double moss stitch. And this is explained in the pattern. Basically, you just need to remember that when you're on the right side rows, you need to change, like purl the knits and knit the purls. And when you're on the wrong side, you actually need to knit as established. So knit the knits, purl the purls. And that's the only thing that the pattern asks you to handle on your own. So that's more than enough, I think. And you can have shaping if you wish, because of the twisted stitch fake seam that also runs around the sleeve. In case you would like tapered sleeve, it makes it really easy to decrease along this line. You can also add shaping on the body if you wish. So the pattern is planned with lots of ease. And if you are someone who struggles with the bottom of your cardigans lifting because of your bust, in the pattern I have incorporated short rows here at the bottom of the front, so that you can add a bit of a slant and extra length on the front, so that you avoid that effect. So yeah, it's knitted, like I said, with by night dyes yarn, using her Orion Deca base. I'm taking it off because it's a bit too hot. We're using our Orion Deca base, which is a BFL and Masson blend, which I really love because it's nice and light. It really feels much lighter than such a big cardigan in decay would. And yeah, it has a really nice, lovely little halo. And Natalie dyes yarn with plants and bits of things, naturally, I mean. And this, if I'm not mistaken, was a weird batch of buckthorn, I think is the name in English. And I really like how it shows the texture so well, but it's like a bit fuzzy. I really like it. And this will work in a variety of different decay weights. If you're someone who prefers a more crisp definition, this will definitely work as well. And yeah, so it's an asymmetrical garment. I'm sorry if you loathe asymmetry, but this is what we have. And yeah, I hope you like it. Did I say everything? I think I did. So yeah, if you do, Nynaeve is up for sale now, and it's like the autumn winter project. So like I said, it's not difficult, it just does take a little bit more time because most of it is double moss stitch, so it's as if you were doing ribbing, but it's nothing complicated, and it's actually quite funny and satisfying to work. You need to follow the chart and remember where you're at, but the actual stitches are not complicated, and you have a video tutorial for the bubbles. It's the bubble technique that I always use, which is just simple, and you do it and it's done. Basically, you don't need to go back and forth. Yeah, so yeah, hope you like it. If you do, it is currently for the release 15% off on Ravelry, with the code. I think it will just be Nyna, so Nyna, but everything will be written in the description and on the pattern page. But yes, until Sunday, you can have 15% off Nynaeve if you so wish or need. And yeah, I think I said everything. I think I said everything. Yes, I was going to say something about the yarn, but yeah, Natalie, which is the dyer behind By Night Dyes, she will have quite a substantial amount of the yarn in her e-shop. If you want to have a look, she really does dye beautiful yarn. She works a lot. You may have seen her once in an episode of Fruity Knitting, and yeah, she really does a lovely work, and I'm very happy to have finally properly collaborate with her instead of buying the yarn and making a design like a isolated bear. But yeah, so that's it for the pattern release for this episode, and I'm gonna move on to a finished project, and jumping completely to the other side of the spectrum is my finished outline tank. So it's too hot to wear Nynaeve, but it's too not hot enough to wear this. So if you do want pictures of this, I posted them on Ravelry and on Instagram. So this is the outline tank, which is a design from Jessie Made, which you probably know of. And this is a very simple, lovely tank top with a nice dropped stitch detail, which is really easy and nice to do. And I knitted this out of the Yarn Lovers Bamboo, which is also a yarn that they sent to me, so that I could try it out and give my opinion. And so it is a pure bamboo yarn in their burgundy colorway. And yeah, the pattern itself really simple, really nice, and quite satisfying to drop the stitch at the end. So yeah, as far as the yarn goes, I really enjoyed knitting with it. It took me a while to get used to it because it's so slippery, as it's pure bamboo, so the twisted ribbing was a bit of a pain, but then when it was stuck in it, I kind of got the hang of it, and it was a bit more smooth to knit with. And yeah, it is very flimsy, very drapey, and very light, and it did grow a bit more than what I expected, which means that I probably would have preferred to shorten the straps. But in any case, I did plan to wear this over bralettes, over dresses, or over like a swimsuit when I'm going somewhere when it's possible to go to places where you need a swimsuit. So since it's like open anyway and transparent with the drop stitch, like I did want to wear this over something, so it's not a problem that it's a bit of a lower neckline that I wanted. But yes, just keep in mind that if you're using such a yarn, it does grow quite a lot. And yeah, it is very nice and fresh, very soft. But yeah, I do think you kind of have to control how loose and flimsy it is. But the thing is, if you want to knit it at a denser gauge, it's a bit difficult because you would have to use very small needles. And the light is doing all sorts of crazy things. But, sorry, incredible things. I try to remove some words out of my vocabulary, which is not easy, but certainly beneficial. It's just, you would have to use very tiny needles to have a dense enough fabric that it would like stay a little bit more structured. And yeah, so it would not be easy, but it would be a good thing, I think. It does work well for loose gauges and all being all nice and drapey, but if you're making a garment, you have to take it into account that it might grow a little bit. But yes, the outline tank, I do love the color a lot. So yeah, fun project. The yarn is nice. I will maybe go back to you once I have worn this a bit to see if there's any sign of wear. It does mark, like, it was rolled. It was not folded, so I don't know where the fold lines come from, but it's kind of like viscose since it's a pure bamboo, and it tends to mark like folds and things pretty easily. But yes, this was my finished work, my finished project from another designer, and I'm going to move on to my work in progress. Now I have 2 new works in progress to share with you, and the first one, which I'm going to start with, is a new design that I'm working on, and it is a colorwork sweater. So this is the episode where people gifted me yarn. It's not something that happens very often, but somehow I just put all of them together. So in this episode, people gifted me the yarn. So last year or something, the kind Natasha, which is a French indie dyer, she is the dyer behind 2 different brands. One is Artemis Yarns, where she uses acid classic dyes, and she does like merino yarns in very fun, speckled, varied colorways. And she also has another brand, because why not? She has the time. It's Ivy Fiber Co. And in this brand, she dyes with natural ingredients. She does non-superwash yarns, mostly, exclusively now, I think. And yes, so I collaborated with her previously, and I placed an order. She lives in the same region as I do, so we met. And I placed an order with her a year or so ago, and she very kindly added a gift to my order, and she gifted me a few skeins, quite a lot, of her Meadow base from the Ivy Fiber Co. brand. And this is a non-superwash, I think it's Falkland yarn. I lost / threw away the tags and forgot about correcting and adding precisions to myself here. It is pure merino from Arles, so Arles merino. It's not Falkland merino like I sort of assumed it was, but she has several bases, but the one that is 2-ply fingering, which is the Meadow base, it is 100% merino d'Arles, so the same type of merino that is used in the Dererum Natura yarn. But it's a non-superwash fingering weight, which is really soft, and it's definitely a yarn that I'm really curious to block and see how it blooms. And I'm knitting. I wanted to make a colorwork because she gifted me skeins of the Sand colorway, which is like a slightly grayed cream neutral base, and then the Cinder colorway, which is this medium gray color. And I knew that they would work quite nicely, and I wanted some sort of specific project to bring them to light, and I was thinking colorwork. And so I let the idea sit for a long time, and eventually I found an idea and a colorwork motif, and I needed a little pop of color for that motif. So I got the colorway Papaya as well as a pop of color. So this is it, and I started a colorwork yoke. So I haven't knitted a colorwork yoke in a long time. It's a shape, it's a construction shape that I really like wearing, but I'm not as confident designing with it yet. So it's a little bit of a challenge, and I'm really liking how it's going so far. So it looks ugly because it's colorwork and it's not blocked. And it's on the needles. So I started with the color in twisted ribbing, and the thing that I wanted is I wanted a rather high color, and what I really liked was adding a stripe of the contrast color, because I kind of like the irregularity of the blips of color and thing. Then I did some short rows while introducing a colorwork motif. So you have to go back and forth in colorwork, which, sorry, it's not something that's difficult. It's just that if you don't like purling, you most likely will not like purling color work, which is my case. But this is like very easy because it's just simple lines. And I much preferred doing this rather than having like a brooch of white at the back of the neck and then have the full-on color work. I think this way it's a little bit of a nicer effect. So you do short rows on the back, and then you start with the yoke increases and the main motif. And as you can see, so I'm going to try and stretch it so you can see the motif a bit, even if, like I said, it's not blocked, so it's a bit ugly. But yeah, so it's sort of a geometrical motif, which I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I wasn't sure if I keep losing stitches. Unbelievable. I wasn't sure if I wanted it to stop at the yoke or if I just wanted to continue it a bit on the body and sleeve. And eventually I decided last night that I would just do a completely colorwork jumper because I cannot stop knitting I kept knitting on the body in colorwork and I was like, should I stop now? Should I stop? And no, I want to keep drawing the motif because it's quite a long drawing. And so yeah, that's why I'm gonna make the sleeves as well in a slightly smaller version of the motif, which hopefully it will look good. I'm not convinced, but I will try. And yeah, so I will also have like a wide ribbing at the bottom with the stripes as well, like I did here. And yes, so this is what it looks like. I did want to show you the wrong side, the floats, because I got a pleasant comment saying that my floats were awful and shameful, which so I thought it would be a good idea to like assault your eyes with it. Look how horrendous it is. Oh my god. But yeah, so this is not blocked. And I thought it would be maybe a good idea to explain to you how I like to handle my floats, because it's kind of, some people like very different things. And for example, I know some people, they want 0 floats and they twist the yarn after every stitch, which is a way for them to have a better tension. And so it kind of removes the concept of color dominance. But maybe if you have never knitted colorwork, or if you have but you don't like handling floats and you're not comfortable with it and you can't get a good tension, that can be a thing that you can try, because it might make it work for you. And yeah, there are various different approaches. Personally, it's less is more. I usually, for sweaters like this, so like this is the longest float. Look how horrible it is. So that's the longest float. I usually, for sweaters, like to have 3.5, like 4 centimeter maximum length float. It sort of depends. Like, of course, if I'm knitting like mittens or socks, or I know some people, like if you're knitting garments for children as well, well, you might want to have shorter floats because they're gonna put their hands all over. So it depends on the project. But for sweaters for myself, and especially since I'm using a non-superwash yarn, it's gonna be a bit smoothed out. Again, this is not blocked, but yeah. For me, this is like a length that I'm comfortable with. And yeah, it also sort of depends on the motif, because you have some motifs that are more intuitive on where you can catch floats. What I mean by that is that when you must catch a float somewhere, check the row below and the row above. And it's a good idea to try and catch the float to catch the contrast color on a stitch where above or below you will actually have a stitch in that contrast color, because that way you cut the contrast color in an area where there will be a stitch in that color on the row below or above, or where there already is a stitch in that color if it's below. But yeah, that's a good idea, instead of catching the float in an empty spot in the middle of nowhere. And since like you're not a machine and your tension might vary, that can help be a little bit more neat on the wrong side. So yeah, I try to compromise basically between the motif, the type of project, and the yarn. And so yeah, in that for that motif, I don't catch float. I only catch floats in 2 spots, so here and here, and then I don't, because it's only like the length that I'm comfortable with here and here. But yeah, the motif will also make it easy to catch your floats more often if that's something that you prefer and that you're appalled by my terribly long, awful floats, right? You will be able to catch your floats here in the middle. If you prefer to catch your float every 2.5 centimeter, like 1 inch, yeah, I guess it sort of depends on what your preference is. And yeah, but I also just want to finish it, because if I block it, I have to wait for it to dry. And so yeah, I'm trying to push through and to finish it, and hopefully the shaping is good, because I did restart 3 times, which is a thing. But yes, so this will be called Drimys, and I plan to release it in November if all is well. But yeah, I need to complete it and send it to testing ASAP. So yeah, that's one of my work in progress. And the second work in progress, which I wanted to show you, is a test knit, a sweater that I am testing for NCL Knits, which is the Switzerland-based indie designer. And she... I'm on the test list, and she called for testers for her Wannabe sweater, which is a really nice, seemingly simple raglan pullover with stripes, and I really like it, and I wanted something simple to knit on, and so I applied, and so that's what I'm doing. So I knitted this over the weekend, so it's going quite quickly, and yeah, you start with the color and 1x1 rib, and again I liked that it was a tall, big color, and I really like the design because it has it's quite delicate, right, with the thin stripes, but then it has the big color and the very large raglan lines, which are made of 5 stitches. So I really like the contrast of that, because like it's like very soft, and at the same time it has like big structural lines, and I really liked how it looks. So yeah, so I started. You make short rows also on the, while you start with the raglan increase, which was really nice and easy to follow. And now I think I'm 2/3 down with the raglan. I'm gonna split soon for the sleeves and the body. And yeah, so I don't have much to say about it because it's a fairly straightforward project. I am using, my main color is Filcolana Arwetta, which is a yarn that I often talk about, and I really recommend if you're based in Europe, because it's more easily accessible in Europe. I don't know what it is for the UK. I'm not talking to you anymore. But in, I'm sorry, I'm joking. But in like mainland Europe, it's easily accessible. I think it's a Danish brand, and they have very affordable yarns, and they have a great range of colors. It's absolutely beautiful. And their Arwetta yarns is their fingering weight, and it's a really versatile fingering weight. It's merino nylon, and it works for anything. It works for socks, it works for sweaters, for shawls. It shows texture and lace well. It also works for color work because it has like a nice little halo. It's very soft. Like I said, it has a great range of color, and it's very affordable. I think it's like 4 or 5 euro. I'm not sure. I don't remember how much exactly, but it's around 5 euros per 50 grams, because they're sold per 50 gram skeins, which is really nice, because that way you don't have to buy too much, and you can buy several colors for a project in smaller quantities. So yeah, that is a yarn that I really recommend. So I'm using the color, it's 977 as my main color. I think it's called Marzipan. Some of them have names, but I'm not sure, because it's not written on the actual ball band. And my contrast color is a yarn that I got from a French indie dyer called Ma Petite Laine. It was Mon Sheep Shop previously. But this is her sock yarn in a colorway that I really liked. It's called Écoutez crépiter le feu, which is a nice, it sounds funny because there's lots of same syllables in it. It means listen to the fire crackling. And it's like this purpley and orange and bright pink variegated yarn, and I really liked it. And I wasn't sure of my combination at first. I almost went with the basic rust stripes for the contrast, as you do, which is my favorite color, rust, and I put it everywhere. But yeah, I really liked that colorway, and I decided to give it a try, and I'm so glad that I did, because as soon as I made the first stripes, I really like having picked a variegated yarn for this. I really think it looks great. And I really like the idea of, you know, if you like a colorway from an indie dyer, but you can't afford making a full project in this yarn, or it's just not necessarily will work, because even though I love this colorway, I don't know that I will make a full sweater with it, because then it would have to be pretty plain. I won't be able to do any texture or anything. And so I really like the idea of just, you take that precious skein of hand-dyed yarn and you mix it with a more affordable yarn in colorwork or in stripes. And I really like doing this, and I think it looks really cool. So yeah, this is the Wannabe sweater. The testing deadline for this, Nadia said, is at the end of September, so maybe this is when it will come out. But yeah, that's it for my works in progress. That's all I have been knitting lately. Well, not all I have been knitting, but all that is relevant to show. And yeah, I also wanted to quickly talk about Pom Pom, the latest issue of Pom Pom Magazine, the 38th issue, the one that is for this autumn, because I'm very happy and I was very lucky to have a design selected to be published in it. So I think the magazine is up for a pre-order or sale already now. It should be available at various stockists. But yes, it's their autumnal issue, and I created the Brocéliande headband, which is a textured headband that is knitted in Katya yarn concept cotton merino, which is a really fun marled yarn with a halo. And basically the headband, if I can find another picture, the headband is a really fun and simple ribbed slip stitch motif, which will look really good as well in like more plain yarns. But yeah, so it has a little twist, and yeah, so it's a very quick and easy little project for the autumn. I'm very happy to have it in this issue of Pom Pom. Now, because I know people will ask, the pattern will be available individually later when I get the rights back. But I also wanted to show you my two other favorite. No, it's like my design is one of my favorites. Not necessarily. But my favorite design from this issue. And the first one is actually the cover cardigan, which I absolutely adore. I really love how those cables are flowing. And here you can see a version which is worn with a little bit more, it's a bit longer. I absolutely love how it looks. I think it looks really cool. So that is one. But my second, like the pattern I absolutely adore. Like this yoke as well is really cool. Really cool. And my favorite design from the issue is this intarsia scarf, which I'm very impressed with, and I think it looks so cool. And it's really fun because so it's intarsia, and you knit it with very fine lace weight yarn, and in some places you hold two different colors together to have a marled effect, and I think it looks really cool. Can I find more pictures, please? Yes. Trying not to show the charts, but yeah, you can see this is marled here. So yeah, I really, really like that scarf. I think it's brilliant. Yeah, I really like it. So yes, I'm very happy to be part of this issue, and I think that's about it. I think I talked about everything that I needed to talk. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this episode. I will come back fairly quickly because at the beginning of September I have something to show you, which is a shawl coming back from the dead. And yeah, so I will see you very quickly, and in the meantime, have a lovely rest of the day, afternoon, evening, whatever applies to you. I hope you are well, and I will see you next time. Bye!